Hey, all right. You are listening to the Deadman's Tome podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman, and this show is broadcast live from deep in the heart of Meth County, Texas. It is the show that is too sexy for YouTube. And tonight we're talking about The Audition, a 1999 Japanese horror film. Now, this film was recommended to me by a guest. I was like, what? I've never heard of this before. And she described it as it was a film that Rob Zombie couldn't finish. I was like, okay. Well, I've seen the film, and how do I feel about it? Well, we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to look into, I guess, the themes and, underlying messages, if you will. Now, spoiler alert, there's going to be spoilers, obviously. Talk about an old film. But I'll let you know when the spoils get heavy. I will say for the live part of the show, I am technically on call tonight. So at any time my work phone could go off. If that happens, I'm going to be out of pocket for a bit. Okay? Anyway, let's get into this. So, what is the Audition? Well, like I said, it's a Japanese horror film. Directed by Takashi Miike. Is that how I say it? I'm not so sure. Anyway, the plot of the film. So you have this middle-aged man, Shigehara Aoyami. We'll call him Aoyami. That's his last name anyway. He's a middle-aged widower. His wife died of cancer. And years have gone by, several years have gone by, and apparently he's been celibate throughout the whole time. Maybe, and I'll get into that. And he's encouraged by his 17-year-old son to begin dating again, but he doesn't know how. He's been out of the dating scene for about 7 years or so, and I mean, how do you start again, right? How do you start again? And he reveals this information. He reveals this to his friend at work, his colleague, who's like, well, you know, they work at I don't know, it's like a TV station or what they do exactly, but his friend gets the idea, hey, you could do a fake audition. We could do an audition for a movie, for some sort of show that doesn't exist. That way you can get all sorts of people applying for it. You get all their information. You pretty much get to screen them for their skills and who they are. You get to know a little bit about them, and then you can kind of screen them through the audition process, and you can pick your wife, or who would you like to date. All right, I can already imagine some feminists going, what? Because it is a crazy thing, right? Now, we'll get into that in a little bit too. So, during this process, they do a casting call, if you will, an audition. And the audition process, well, it's some of the questions that the friend asks are kind of pervy, like, would you ever take your top off? Would you ever do porn? Tell me a little bit about your dad. Have you ever had sex? Stuff like that. It's like, what? Well, our main guy, Aoyama, is quiet. And not only is he quiet, but he also feels kind of guilty and criminal about doing the whole thing. But he sets his eyes on Asami. If you're watching on the live stream, Asami is obviously the chick I have here. If you haven't... Okay, if you're not watching the live stream or listening to the podcast, if you look at the cover of the film, that's who Asami is. And I think the cover for this film gives away way too much. It's not much of a spoiler to know that Asami might be a little homicidal and might kill our main guy, our star. Because the cover gives it away. Anyway, he sets his sights on Asami, and they start dating. for a bit. His friend, Yoshikawa, notices that, wait, some of the information that Asami said about where she worked before and all that, it doesn't really add up. And not only that, there's a strange disappearance with the last company she worked with. So, has some concerns about her. But that does not discourage our main guy, Aoyama, wants to go pursue her. He sees his wife in this woman, right? This is his chance to have his wife back in a way. Eventually, after a few dates go successfully, he's thinking about proposing as a place to do it in mind when she wants him to go to bed with her. And that's where the movie goes wild. I'm going to stop you here for those who don't want any spoilers. Like, if you don't want to be spoiled about this film and you want to see it yourself, see what the ruckus is all about, see what the fuss is all about, see why Eli Roth and Rob Zombie and Quentin Tarantino really praise this movie. If you want to see it for yourself and not have it be spoiled, go check it out. And I do recommend it. It is a pretty good film. All right. So if you continue to listen to these words, to this voice, you're gonna be spoiled. All right, let's get into this. First off, this film was described to me as it was really gory, like it's something that is so obscene that it's gonna be troubling and all. It's really not that obscene. There's some moments where it's gruesome. But if you've seen Saw, if you've seen Hostel, you're not going to be bothered by this. You're not going to be disturbed by it. Though there's a pedophilic element to this film that's pretty fucking disturbing. I'll say that. In fact, when you first watch this, about an hour into the film, you might be wondering, where's the horror? What is this? Am I watching a drama? Am I watching a build-up for a rom-com? That's what it seems like. I mean, the plot seems like a rom-com. Hey, we need to find some dates. We need to find some hot chicks. Hey, let's do a casting call. We can get them that way. Sounds like the build-up for a rom-com. But then something happens, and it goes wild. And I'll say, when the movie goes wild, it really goes in. It gets into the nitty gritty. It gets into some really dark things. Now, for those who are like, concerned about the casting couch thing, let me talk. Actually, let me stop. Being kind of reluctant and hesitant about getting into, the moral argument, the moral elements of this movie, because there's layers to this film. There's a message behind it, depending on how you look at it. Some see it as a feminist film, some see it as an anti-feminist film. I see it more like an anti, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But let's talk about the morality argument here. So, Aoyama, we know he lost his wife. He really loves her. It's been messing with him that she's been gone for as many years that she has been. He still has her photo, on his desk. He still thinks of her. He's troubled by the thought of. He seems reluctant to even date again. When he looks at about his wife, when he looks at the applicants for the audition, he even has to turn away his wife's photo because it bothers him, because he feels guilty about it. There's a level of guilt there. Now, about the morality part, is Aoyama a bad guy? I mean, he is the guy. I mean, while it was his friend that proposed to do the audition, the fake audition, he did tag along. He was part of it. He was part of the process. And the audition, or the casting part of it, or whatever, is nothing like a Weinstein sort of thing. They're not like perping on them. Not that we know, anyway. I mean, his friend might have some other motives. We don't know. It never explores that. It kind of hints at that, but based on the questions he asks. But it does not explore that any more than that. It is messed up that he lies. It is messed up that he sets up this false narrative to lure women in, to filter them out, to treat an audition process like a Tinder app or something. But he's not a hashtag Me Too guy, you know. He wouldn't be hit by that. In fact, in this movie, he doesn't even touch her. He doesn't even do anything sexual with her until she gives a clear signal that she wants it, that she wants him. I mean, she clearly gets into the bed and tells him, "Hey, come to bed with me." But before you do, look at my body, look at my scars. And even then, he's reluctant. Then there's the when we talk about morality, there's the issue with our lady here, Asami. I mean, she has some secrets about her that are pretty dark, kind of murderous. There's a scene where there's a scene in her apartment where there's a bag in there with her. What's in the bag? Is it just nothing? Is it something? Oh, there's a guy in the bag. There's a guy in the bag. Not only is it a guy, but when he crawls out of the bag, his fingers are cut. He only has like one finger or something. His tongue is gone. His feet are gone, cut off. He's been living in the bag, apparently shitting and pissing on himself. And he eats. What does he eat? Apparently he eats Asami's vomit. Asami vomits into a bowl and feeds it to this guy. I mean, I guess we talk about the morality about that. Shit. It's really hard to find someone who's truly, I guess, moral in this film. I think that's kind of the point of it, that it's complicated. It's, it's not. It's more. It's definitely more postmodern. Things are abstract. Things are subjective. What is objective? And then some people wonder if, I heard this before, whether the narrator, our main guy, Aoyama, since we're getting it pretty much from his perspective, whether he is even a trustworthy narrator. Because we see Aoyama as he's presented as this moral figure, not really a moral figure, but as a good guy. He's a good dad. He spends plenty of time with his son. Yeah, obviously has feelings for his wife. And it has reluctance to move on, to continue to date, and all that. He feels guilty to even doing the audition thing. So he does have a moral compass, and he feels. But especially the beginning part of the film, it seems to hide whether or not he has any sort of skeletons in his closet, of what's going on with him. You know? And some people wonder whether that is, and I could see something to this argument. Some people wonder whether or not we can really trust him, especially when later on in this film, there's glimpses back to the dates where people are warning him, people are saying things to try to advise him. Oh, you gotta watch out for this girl. You gotta watch out for her. But we don't get that until later on. What else? Oh, okay. There is this weird exchange between Aoyama and his secretary. It's very early in the film, and it makes you wonder if there was something between them. And if there was, when did it happen? Did it happen when he was married? Did it happen when his wife died? We don't know. It doesn't say. It doesn't say. But I think what's really interesting about this film, at least for me anyway, is that because of how it's done, especially at the end, people can have different interpretations of this film, whether or not it was a dream or whether or not everything we saw in the latter half of the movie was actually real. Because the moment when Asami and Aoyama get into the bed, the moment Aoyama goes into bed with Asami, that moment is when the film changes. And it happens quickly. The moment he gets in bed with her, all of a sudden it's like this loud noise, and it shifts in the sheets and the blankets. It's like, what's going on? That's a weird way to have sex. It's like the blanket consumes him. It's like he's consumed by her, but then he unravels and she's gone. At that moment, the rest of the movie could either be a dream, or it could be, well, it could be real. All right. So let's explore the dream argument for this. Well, some people might see Audition being a dream. Okay. So Aoyama has this fixation on Asami, right? Asami. How should I put this? How should I say this? Okay, first off, on the dream thing, Asami just disappears. Like when Aoyama wakes up, Asami is gone. She is gone without a trace. And it's within seconds that it happens. People don't just disappear at all, right? Now, there's parts of this movie where they kind of hint that maybe this woman has some questionable past. Apparently, when we see scenes of her in her apartment, it's just her, like sitting like she is desperate, waiting for a phone call, like solitary, not moving a muscle, waiting for that call, waiting for Aoyama to give her a call. All she has in her apartment is a phone and that bag that has that guy in it. When he wakes up and after he realizes that she's gone, he quickly goes on a hunt for her. Now his friend says, hey, ignore this, ignore her, don't follow it. But he hunts down, what he heard from what she said during the dates, and also on the audition paper that she submitted, or application, I should say. And what he finds is like insane stuff. In this boarded house, I guess a boarded studio, what used to be the studio that she claimed to have learned ballet at. You see some wild stuff. Really, one wild thing. It's this guy, old Japanese man, at a piano playing. It turns around, he's in a wheelchair. Not only is he in a wheelchair, but his feet look like they're stitched back together. Like they've been cut off, and he stitched them back. But what's interesting about that scene is that the way he's presented, the way the light is hitting Aoyama, makes it seem like he's distant from everything. Everything else is in the dark. Everything's kind of in a way. But, I mean, that conversation happened. Perhaps it just happened in this dream. Maybe he was thinking back to, I don't know what Asami said about learning ballet in the studio. And how the guy that taught her ballet inflicted injuries on her. And the guy sees, he starts laughing. Oh, yeah, you met Asami, right? Did you touch her? Did you smell her? Did you enjoy it? Did you? He continues his search, looking for Asami. Where did she go? People don't just disappear. And he finds her apartment. On this path to find it, he finds like severed fingers just left there. Severed fingers just left there in the alleyway. That's something that would have been picked up by like a rodent or something, or cleaned up. Like it's not just gonna sit there. But it's there. He finds her apartment. And this is the part where when Aoyama is in Asami's apartment, is where I could see why some people might say this is a dream, because it seems like Aoyama's not even there. He's there witnessing, and that's when we find that that's when we find out what's in the bag. Because he's there, and he sees the guy crawl out of the bag. The guy I talked about before, the guy with no feet, missing fingers, no tongue. He looks disheveled. He looks like he's covered in his own filth and in underwear. And he's asking for a meal. He can say meal. And behind him, we hear someone vomiting. Apparently, it's Asami vomiting into something. And she presents this bowl, walks right past Aoyama, presents this bowl. A bowl of regurgitated, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But it's like he's not even there. At all. Look at you guys. Oh, hey, look at the chat here. Yeah, lots of uploads today. All those uploads are kind of unrelated to what I'm talking about now. I still try to keep it horror movies and all that stuff. But yeah, enjoy them. They're fun. And I'll go ahead and say this here. So sometime soon, I plan on doing a podcast or an episode on just Antifa and all that. But anyway. Okay, so in this part where Asami and Aoyama are in their apartment, the only time she really seems to really notice him is when she starts coming onto him, like sexually. And the way she does it, she just grabs him and gets on her knees. You know, you can already imagine what's happening, right? I don't want to illustrate that image for you. But when she puts her face into his crotch and she pulls away, it's no longer her. It's the face of the secretary that we saw earlier that may or may not have had a fling with him or whatever. Starts freaking out about that. But then the face changes to the his son's girlfriend. a 17-year-old son. I'm guessing a 17-year-old girl. So then he's like, oh, she's like, oh, you like this sort of thing, don't you? You like this, you little pervert. Kind of like that, but not really. That's what's implied when she says, oh, you have a boner and stuff like that. So more evidence that perhaps this could all be a dream, because people don't do that, right? People don't do that. And it's been hinted in this film that this person may not even be who she really claims to be. In fact, the first time you see her apartment, technically, she's like actually a little girl. And I noticed that. I'll put it here on the screen. Okay, I saved it here. The first time you see her apartment, you see her as a little girl with a ham radio, whatever. Maybe that's not her place. Maybe that's just a different apartment. But it looks like the same apartment. It really does. So it really makes you wonder whether or not all this stuff could really just be in his head. So if that doesn't convince you, there's a part during the torture sequence. Now, there's a part in this film that people kind of compare to like Saw or Hostel or whatever, where there's a lot of body horror. There's a lot of okay. There's before Aoyama and Asami get in the bed, before they do that, Asami asks Aoyama, I want you to love me and only me, no one else. And he says, oh, sure, yes. He says, yeah. And then later on, we see a scene, it looks like in her perspective, a POV shot, where she's going through his place. Moving fast, by the way, like a specter. Moving something that, like paranormal or something. And going through and reacting to images of his wife, reacting to seeing the dog, reacting to seeing his son. And it's clear that whoever's seeing it, which we know is her, has a problem with what she's seeing. Last thing she sees is his whiskey, and then it's clear that she poisons it. I mean, the movie gives it away. There's no real like hidden secret. He comes home, he drinks the whiskey, he passes out. He passes out, and that's when we start seeing like her coming into the room. He notices that the dog is dead and like all fucked up looking, nasty looking. And she's all in this leather stuff. Has all these, has injections to paralyze him. Has needles to poke into his body, into his eyes. Has piano wire to cut through his feet. Which he does. I mean, which she does. She does all of that. She does all of that. During all this, there's a part. I should say there's a part during this where he wakes up. He wakes up back in the bed with Asami next to him, and he's like this is just a dream. And he checks his foot. His foot's still there. Okay. But then it goes back to the torture stuff. And in fact, it ends on the torture stuff. It ends with Asami pretty much, not Asami, Aoyama pretty much maimed and, torn up, hurt. His son is being chased by Asami, and she's trying to attack him with mace. He kicks her down the stairs and pretty much kills her. She looks all fucked up. Now, so really, it kind of sucks in a way, because I thought I'd be able to convince myself still that maybe perhaps the narrative to this film is real, but it doesn't make any sense for that to be. It seems like in this movie it's just a dream. It's just a dream and a reaction to anxiety. After all, Aoyama was very hesitant to move on from his ex-wife. Or, sorry, his dead wife. It wasn't until his son brought it up that he should marry again. He should find someone. Because he's very lonely. And his son, one day, will be out of the house. He's moving on. Even when he was going through the applications for the audition, he was, he had trouble about that. He had to turn his wife's photo away. We know that he has trouble with that. He has anxiety about that. And he was screening the applicants, looking for someone who would be very similar to his wife. Perhaps all that we saw in the later half of this movie, if it is a dream, is just fueled by his fears and anxiety. Maybe the other things, like the secretary. Maybe he did have a fling with the secretary, and he feels guilty about that. We don't know if it happened while I was married, but it seems like if it did happen, it probably happened when the wife was dead. And he knows that those sort of relationships aren't well, I guess they're not really that acceptable. They're not acceptable, right? A higher up, a boss having sex with the secretary. I mean, if she gives consent, right? But he has a problem with it. See, that's where I think the feminist angle about this film really suffers, because it doesn't really seem to be about Asami, really. It seems to be more about him dealing with the morality and ethics of being able to move on, and of course having the shady way to like a screen and select for a date for a wife. In fact, when we learn more about Asami, it seems like she's kind of fucked up. That she might have a history of killing people or maiming them or something. But then again, that could just be a dream sequence. All that could just be a dream. And really just his fears playing it up. So I don't really get the whole feminist angle on this thing at all. At all. Man. I will say though, I'll wrap up this review right here. So overall, the movie's pretty good. Pretty good. It takes a while to get into it because it is like an hour and 15 minutes of what seems to be kind of like a drama and a rom-com build-up. Drama or a rom-com build-up. But after that, it does get wild. And what you see is pretty insane. I think you'll enjoy that if you like that sort of demented imagery. Not demented, kind of gruesome stuff. Now, is it over the top like Hostel or Saw? No, it's nothing like that. It's more played down. The putting the acupuncture needles into the eye, that was pretty gruesome. And the way she did it, she was all smiling and saying cute stuff when she did it, having so much fun. Yeah. But anyway. So yeah, I would recommend the film. You guys check it out. I'm gonna have another stream after this. Yes, I'm just feeling in that mood, you know? Anyway.